Hey everybody, I'm going to teach you how to play the amazing Tiny Epic Galaxies by Scott Alms. Game plays 2 to 4 players, about 30 minutes long. In Tiny Epic Galaxies, players will be controlling their very own galaxy, doing all sorts of awesome galactic stuff like upgrading your empire, improving your starship fleet, managing resources, colonizing planets, everything you do every day when you're in the galaxy. This is the home galaxy player board. So on this card here, it's the same, both sides, except for you will notice one side has a starting player indication. So if you are the starting player, make sure that you're playing with that side. And you'll see here it's got the galaxy in the center and then a whole series of different tracks that allow you to do and track status of a bunch of awesome things. So to get into this, I'm going to start off first by showing you and talking with you about the bits in the game. Now, please keep in mind this is a prototype, so everything is subject to change. Now, the wood bits and the dice are production samples from the manufacturer, and they do feature some of the available stretch goals in the game, like the laser engraved dice with the beautiful shimmery galactic effect. And then also the laser cut airship or starships there, and then they do the screen printing on the resources. Now the star here, which is your empire token, is changing to a hexagonal column, and with a stretch goal, can have a star screen printed onto that hexagon. Okay, so to start off, you got your awesome ships. And then your 2 types of resources, like I was telling you. Now, the Empire token, you're going to place on your Empire track, which is the first track here on the far right. You'll start at level 1. And that track is going to just indicate what level your Empire currently is. So it can go up to level 6. And each time you go up a level, you unlock, essentially, everything that's across the different tracks there. So you'll notice this next track is your ship track, your dice track, and then this is your victory point track called power. So you get your first victory point at level 2. Notice at level 1 you don't start with any victory points, but you have access to 2 ships and 4 dice. That'll just tell you how many dice you get to roll at the start of your turn. Okay, and then this track over here on the left is your resource track. So we have two different types. We have energy, which starting players begin with 2 energy, and then we have culture, and starting players begin with 1 culture. Now, because you have access to 2 ships at level 1, let's make sure we put 2 ships in the galaxy. And then if you'd like, you can place your other ship there at level 3 when you unlock it, and the 4th one, you'll notice, unlocks at level 5. You can kind of just keep track that way and see when your next ships are coming up. So the resources that you have here, energy and culture, as you gain resources, you'll simply be moving them up the track, and as you spend them, down. 7 is the max that you can have of any one type of resource. You can go beneath 1. You would just simply remove that off the track, and that would just indicate that you have 0 of that kind of resource. Now, the purpose of resources are dual-fold. They both can contribute into upgrading your empire, and the way that you would do that is when you take a colony action, which we'll get to here in a little bit, you would then, as you see here, colony actions give you access to powers, and your home galaxy's initial power is to upgrade your empire, spend either energy or culture, and that'll be equal to the level that you're upgrading to. So to upgrade to level 2, you would simply have to spend either 2 energy or 2 culture. You cannot spend them both to pay for the upgrade. It has to be all of one type. Now, the second purpose for each resource, energy, and you'll notice a little reminder right here in the center, it allows you to reroll, and culture allows you to follow. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about the dice. I'm not going to go into anything too deep right off the bat with each symbol, but I'll come back and talk about them. So your first one is move, and then you have your colony action, and then you have 2 different symbols that represent your resources, energy, and culture, and then 2 symbols that represent the influence, which is diplomacy and economy. I'll tell you about the influence here in just a second. Okay, so when you start off, you get to roll 4 dice. Now, for the sake of this, let's pretend I already rolled, and the 4 symbols that I rolled are right here in front of us. Now, each turn you do get to have the option of 1 free reroll, which would allow you to reroll as many unlocked dice as you would like. If you still don't like the results, that's when you would come over and start spending your energy to reroll. Or, now let's take a look here at the control card, which is in the center of the table. There is a converter. You can lock 2 dice into the converter if you would like. Now, you're sacrificing those. You're not going to be taking their actions. But then you can change the symbol of a 3rd die to whatever you would like and lock that in. Let's, for whatever reasons. But you would be able to choose what you want and lock that in. So a full conversion takes 3 dice. Okay, so that's just another little thing that's important for you to know about. Okay, so here was the original roll. And here's how actions are taken. When you're ready, you go ahead and lock an action in to the activation bay by placing it on the card. That's going to allow you to immediately resolve the action. So in this case, it's movement. And movement allows you to move one of your ships. Now, when you move, you can have a couple of choices here. You can either move to the surface of a planet, let's say here, and that would allow you to immediately take the action that's listed on the planet. In this particular case, that would be harvest 1 energy. So if Blue decided to land there on the surface, he would immediately increase 1 energy. The other option for Blue would be to move to a colony track. When you move there, you'll simply place on the entry point, and now you do not get the ability of that planet immediately, but you do begin the colonization of the planet. If you can take it over by moving to the opposite end of the track, then you will take that planet, you will then own it, it will slide under your card and expand the options that your galaxy has. So you can kind of see Red's got some awesome abilities coming as well. So, and then when you do that, you would immediately refill that space with a new card. Any ships that are on the card would just simply go back to your galaxy. If your opponent has ships on the card, they also would just go back to their galaxy. So, so Blue locks in a movement, and he's going to decide to go ahead and land on the colonizing track of the planet. Okay, now, because he's locked that in, here's where the culture resource follow comes in, because now he has to ask the other people at the table, hey, does anybody want to follow the action that I just locked in? Red has culture, which means he has the option to follow that. And so he's going to. So Red would spend 1 culture to then take the action movement, the movement action, I mean. He doesn't have to move and do the exact same thing as a Blue player, but he does take the move action. So he's going to go ahead and move to the surface of that same planet and gain or harvest 1 energy. So you'd simply move that up. Now, he can move to the same planet as Blue. There's no restrictions with that in the sense that the only restriction is that you can only have 1 ship of your own color on either the colony track or the planet surface. So now that Red's on the surface planet, he could not double up and put another red ship there. But if later he had a move action, he certainly could come and move on the colonizing track and race Blue up the track. And you can have 2 of your own ships on 1 card. They just had to be serving 2 different purposes like that. So, okay, so Blue, he's going to go ahead and lock in the colony action. Again, the colony action gives you access to any powers that your colony has. Now, in Red's scenario, he would have 3 different things to choose from, but Blue can only upgrade his empire. In this case, that's what he wants to do. So he's going to upgrade to the 2 and spend 2 energy because he doesn't have 2 culture. And remember, you have to spend it all of 1 type. So that does give Blue the upgrade, and now Blue is ready to go with 5 dice on his next turn. Anybody want to follow? Okay, so red is going to follow. Red still has a culture, so now he spends his last culture to follow, and he has to follow the colony action. He's also going to choose to upgrade. And so in this scenario, it's going to take him 4 energy, so he would have to spend all his energy, and then he could upgrade to that 4th spot. But red has exhausted his resources, but he's had a heck of a turn on blue's turn. All right, so the other dice that we have here, energy. So if we lock in an energy, and culture is going to function the same way. The reason I kind of grouped those together is because function, in terms of their function, they do the exact same thing, just in their own respective type. So when you're locking a resource die, like energy or culture, you're going to gain a number of that resource equal to the number of ships that you have on that kind of planet. So you'll notice that your home galaxy is energy, and so your home galaxy actually produces the energy resource. So for locking this in, blue would definitely be getting 1 energy. Now we would take a look at, does blue have any other ships on energy planets? So blue's only other ship here is on a culture planet, as indicated on the top right of that card. So blue would not gain an energy for that ship. But being on the colony track is legal for gaining a resource, but that's just the wrong card type. So in this scenario, for locking that in, blue is only going to gain 1 energy. Red doesn't have any culture, so red's not going to be able to follow. Blue would then take his last die, which was the culture, and he'll go ahead and lock that in as well. And being that he is on a culture planet, he will gain 1 culture. And that would be the conclusion of blue's turn. Red would then pick up the dice, and being that he's a level 4 galaxy, would have 6 dice to roll, and it would continue as such. So let's talk a little bit about the influence icons that I showed you. Now blue, if you remember, he moved over to an economy track, and that's indicated by that symbol at the very end of the track. Now there's also a diplomacy track, so it's one or the other. And again, these two types of actions resolve the same for their own corresponding type. So if blue were eventually to lock in a colony, or sorry, an economy die, he would be able to move up 1 space. And if he eventually locks in another one, he'd be able to move up again. And that's when he would take that over. Red ship would return to his galaxy. Blue ship would return to his galaxy. He would take the card, and that would, refill with another one. This card would slide under. Now, anytime that blue locks in that colony action, he would be able to choose to either upgrade his empire or harvest 1 energy. So that's how you begin to accumulate abilities. Now, you'll also notice that on a planet card, there are victory points that match, the same power swirl that you see over here. So red has actually acquired a planet worth 2 victory points and a planet worth 5. And then red's empire level is 4, so he gets 3 points from that. So red's currently at a total of 10 victory points. The end of the game is triggered when a player reaches 21 victory points. At that point, you will play around back to the starting player, who would not get another action, and that would be the end of the game. So everybody gets an equal amount of actions, and whoever has the highest victory points at that point would win the game. So we pretty much covered just about everything here. You see that there's 4 planets out, and the reason for that is because it's a 2-player game. When you set your game up, you're going to draw planets out for the number of players plus 2. So that, in this case, it would be the 4. And it's very important to know what kind of planets you're up against to start off with. This one here, if upgraded the least, upgrade your empire for 1 less culture or energy. So that would be really good right now for blue, right? Because blue is only a level 2, so that's a nice little catch-up planet for blue. And that's a whopper too. That's worth 7 points. But you can notice the track is extra long. And so then you see here, this is the new one that came out, advance a ship +1. That's referring to a colony track. So that would just allow you to advance any kind of influence up a track. This one here is specifically advancing an economy influence type. And this one is convert any number of energy into culture. Now there's a whole series of planets, and so the more planets you have, the more replayability the game will have, the more you'll get to explore different strategies and cool things in the game. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of things. Again, the game plays real quick, and the real neat thing about this game is the stringing together of the actions because the fact that you're resolving each action instantly as you lock it in, then the things that you do with the first couple of dice will change the results of dice that you lock in down the track. And so you can start setting up combos, and especially when you incorporate your planets that you've taken over or planets that you move to, you can really set up these huge payoff combo turns where your opponents just did not see any of it coming because it all unfolded, right before their eyes. So really a glorious game. It ends with people up out of their seat, crouched over the table, waiting to get that very special roll. So check it out, Tiny Epic Galaxies. Thanks a lot.